Well, welcome everybody to the Healthy Joints, Healthy Lifestyle Show. And I have a phenomenal guest today. Her name is Dr. Sherita Gaskin-Tillett, and she is a physician. She is an OBGYN board certified with a passion for empowering women in medicine and beyond. For those who don't know me, my name is Dr. Arinola Dada. I help people with joint pain. I'm a rheumatologist to get their pain make them become pain-free and so that they can live their best lives and have an amazing time. The other thing that I do is I help people with autoimmune disease get their immune system back on track. But today is not about your Dr. Dada. Today is about our phenomenal guest, Dr. Tillett. And Dr. Tillett, thank you so much for coming to the show.
Thank you for having me. It's my pleasure to be here.
And so I know I have not even begun to do your credentials any justice. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself and kind of, how we got here?
Sure. I'm an OBGYN turned personal development coach and retreat host. So, probably about 10 or so years ago, I found myself at a crossroads. I was a full-time, full spectrum OBGYN. So that means I was doing deliveries in the middle of the night. I was doing GYN surgeries and all of those things. But I was also a new wife and a new mother. So I actually married later in life. And so I was a single OBGYN for a lot of years, and my schedule was that of a single woman. And then I added a husband and a child without making any adjustments to my schedule. And honestly, I found myself drowning. I had everything I'd ever wanted, but I couldn't enjoy any of it. I was exhausted. I felt like I was failing at everything. I wasn't being a good wife. I wasn't being a good mother. I was missing all my daughter's milestones. And I wasn't being the physician that I wanted to be. And I just got to a point where, like I said, I wasn't really enjoying anything. And I think in hindsight, I was probably burned out, but I didn't have language for it at that time. And my husband and I went on a vacation, and I was sitting on the beach in Jamaica, with the trade winds blowing. And it just hit me in the moment that I could hear my voice again. And I realized I wasn't even hearing my own voice, that I was running on autopilot, doing all the things, trying to be everything to everyone, and had lost myself. So I knew at that time that things needed to change.
Interesting. Let me just kind of trying to understand how long had you been an OBGYN? Like full time, full force all the time?
Right. So by that point, probably about five or 6 years.
Wow, okay, of just going full out.
Exactly, exactly. With no consideration for others, right?
Or for others or for yourself, really, right?
Well, that's true too. That's true
Right.
too. But
Yeah.
I had more time to try to recover from
Yeah.
the shifts and all of that.
Yeah. And so was this kind of a gradual shift then as you kind of lay on the beach, you kind of gradually started to think, hey, or how did that actually transition for you?
Yeah, yeah. So, like I said, I'm there on the beach, and I'm like, wait a minute, I'm not. What really came up was I'm not well, and so honestly, I pulled out my phone and I started Googling what it meant to be well right there on the beach, and so that kind of planted the seeds of me finding a foundation of wellness. So when I returned home, I discovered a course. It was a faith-based course called Pathway to Wholeness. And it just taught me so much about myself and about my position in the world, my value, how I defined myself, all of those things. And that personal development, coupled with some changes that were going on in the practice, freed me. So I like to think that I had enough wisdom to just leave the job, but it really didn't happen that way. Like I said, I was going through the personal development. I realized that, I had value, that I could define myself aside from everyone else, outside of the being the wife and the mother and the doctor, that Sherita, had identity and purpose. But
Wow,
beyond that,
you have
um,
identity and purpose. And that's
yes,
some,
yes.
yeah.
But the practice at the same time was going through a time of transition. It had been purchased by a hospital system. And so, I fully intended to be there my whole career. I loved my practice. I loved my patients. I loved my partners, but it became obvious that I wasn't going to be able to stay. And so, I ended up leaving that job. And at the time that I was planning to go, it seemed like the worst thing in the world to me. It
Mhm.
was, heartbreaking because, like I said, I was like a fish out of water. I didn't know what to do next because I thought I'd found the perfect place and I planned to be there until I retired because that's what people did in that practice. But honestly, it because I'd had that personal development epiphany. I started talking to myself differently. And so the story I'd been telling myself previously was that I had to work as a full-time OBGYN because I graduated with a lot of student loan debt. And so I'd been telling myself, well, there's nothing else that you could do that's going to pay these loans. So you have to practice and you have to practice in this way, but I had never actually investigated. So these are assumptions, really. It's a story I was telling myself, excuse me, but also just assumptions. I was assuming that there was nothing else, but I hadn't really looked into it. And so I stopped myself in the midst of that kind of, thought loop and said, well, wait a minute, why don't you investigate and see what the options are? And that opened a whole world for me. And so I realized in that time that there were so many options that were available to physicians, different ways to do a schedule. You could do part-time, you can do hospitalist, you can do outpatient only, you can do non-clinical things. There were so many options available that I'd been cutting myself off from because I hadn't even looked into it. And so in that point, I transitioned to being a hospitalist.
Interesting. So it sounds like, right? So a lot of our listeners and a lot of patients, outside just, when they come and we're talking about joint pain, et cetera, et cetera, we do have situations in our lives where we just kind of assume, right?
Yes,
We make those assumptions. And it sounds to me like things kind of opened up for you when you actually gave yourself some thinking time, right?
exactly.
When you actually give yourself some thinking time, and actually the answer was within you, and you gave
Yes,
some thinking time to really question those assumptions, right?
yes,
And so whether it is, what you want to do with your health, and, you can't, it sounds like even when we're talking about being healthy, right? We sometimes are just like, I can't make time to go for my doctor's
right.
appointment because I have to be at this job and I have to do this and I have to do that. But having that opportunity to really get some thinking time, get a little bit of time to focus on you because you are important. So it sounds like
Yes,
you figured that out on the beach, right?
yes,
And then really now giving yourself the opportunity to explore and not just
right.
have those fixed assumptions. If I'm not at work doing work, or some of our software engineers, I think they work all the time, every time,
Yeah,
or maybe they sleep 3 hours and they're at work. But giving yourself that time to think and to question whether there are alternate options is what you were able to really embrace.
yes. Yes. And that's actually one of the reasons that I started doing retreats because I recognize that women in particular, especially professional women, we do run on autopilot and we do put everybody's priorities ahead of our own. And we don't take any time to connect with ourselves and to actually figure out what we want. And you actually hit on a very good point, which is the answers are always inside of us. If we ever take the time to connect with ourselves and ask ourselves the difficult questions, then we will discover the answers. And you're right, we make a lot of excuses, all the reasons why we can't do something. But what I've learned to do now is to ask, how can I? So, when I say, when you say there's no time to exercise, how can I exercise? Okay, maybe I can't do an hour at one time, but maybe I can do 20 minutes in the morning, 20 minutes in the afternoon, and 20 minutes at night. Then I get my whole hour, but it doesn't take a chunk of time. So start asking yourself, how can I do things? How can I incorporate these healthy lifestyle changes? How can I honor my priorities? Because that's really what it was all about for me, is that my priorities had shifted. My work had been my priority, but once I had a family, my family was now my priority. And I had to figure out how to honor that and honor me. So how to honor the family as the priority, but also myself. And again, that's what I do, with the retreats is I help women take that time away, but I also challenge them with the questions so that they can go home with a renewed sense of purpose, and renewed sense of who they are and their value, and then what they really want.
Isn't that, well, I totally support that. Who doesn't want to have a renewed self of purpose and what they really want? But I love that question. How can I?
Yes.
How can I so that I can? Right. And I think
Yes,
if
absolutely.
we I love that. And I so kind of, it so resonates with the way I think we want people to really think about this.
Yes.
No, I
Yes.
not no, I can't, is how can I?
Yeah, because you know what, when we say we can't, it's coming from a place of weakness. Like, like you don't
Mm,
have any power over your life, that things are just happening to you. When you
mm,
start to say, how can I? It
mm,
puts you in the driver's seat. When you start
mm,
making plans, you're the person that's in charge.
mm.
And, so even if you're not like the boss where you work, you're still the boss of you and the boss of your life. And so being able to ask those questions and structure things in a way that respects the things that are important to you, it just makes all the difference in the world.
Does. Does. One of the things that you do, though, is that you help, very high achieving women. And I would say any woman who is balancing family and some
Yeah.
kind of job, or even a woman who is balancing a child with special needs.
Oh gosh, yes.
Oh my goodness, a
That's
woman.
a whole nother, right? That's a whole
Yeah,
nother
yeah,
thing.
yeah. Or even a single woman who's trying to climb that ladder and trying to break those ceilings.
Yes.
They're all high achieving women,
Yes.
outside the home. So how do many of these high achieving women that struggle and feel unfulfilled, how do you help them? How do we help them? Even though they've accomplished so much, they still feel,
Right.
unfulfilled. Where do you even begin to assist them?
That's the thing. I think the starting point is really gaining clarity on who you are and what's important to you. Because, when we define success by external measures, we're never going to measure up. And I think it starts there in figuring out what you want your life to look like, what you want for yourself, regardless of what other people think. Like for me, I'm mostly non-clinical at this point. I only see patients here and there. And so that if I defined myself only as a doctor, then I would be very lost. But I had to get to the place where I was comfortable with that not being the measure of my success. And I have people say, well, oh, well, you used to be a doctor. You're not a doctor anymore. I will always be a doctor. I earned that privilege. I still see patients, but I also have other things. I'm not, pigeonholed into just the medicine box. There's so many other gifts that I've been given that I can share with the world, and I can serve women in another way. And I think similarly, figuring out the things that are most important to you and how you define success. When I was single, there was a friend who told me, she was also a physician, and she was married and had a child. And she said, I want to tell you something. You can't have it all. You can't have it all. I just need you to understand that. And really, I've learned to flip that. You can have it all, but it's your all. It's how you define it. And I think getting that clear understanding of who you are and what you want, I think that's the starting point.
That makes so much sense, right? So, I mean, you can't have it all, but what is all? What is all to
Right.
you?
Exactly. Who says, right? Who says what all is?
Who says, yeah,
Yeah,
what is all? What is the meaning of all, right? And what is that?
exactly.
And identifying, and as you're saying, kind of prioritizing, understanding yourself,
Yes.
all is to you, and understanding that we have many gifts. We're not one trick
Right.
piece,
Yeah,
right?
and the other thing is giving yourself permission to grow and to change and evolve.
Mm,
So like I
mm,
said, I had the life of a
mhm,
single person, but
mhm,
I changed. My life changed. And
mhm,
even if I hadn't added the husband and the daughter, I was still going to change. We
mhm.
don't stay the same. And but sometimes we don't give ourselves permission to grow into our next level. And so it's also about that, be having that, giving yourself that permission.
What would we say were the first steps that's important for women who kind of feel stuck? Because I think a lot of women who are experiencing, whether you're juggling, whatever you're
Yes.
juggling, basically, you're juggling, whatever you're juggling, right? You kind of know a little bit of this
Yes.
subconsciously. Somebody asked you theoretically, you could write. But what would be the first practical steps
I
that
think
that
the,
women could to get unstuck from this?
Yeah, honestly, the first practical steps are building a foundation of wellness. Because I think that when we're depleted and we're not feeling well and all of those things, that we don't have the bandwidth to do anything else. And so I think taking that time, so finding ways to incorporate wellness into your everyday life. So, healthy lifestyle habits like drinking enough water, getting enough sleep, getting exercise, journaling, meditation, listening to podcasts, things that fill your cup. I think it's important that you establish that foundation of wellness first, and then you're in a better position to start thinking about other things. I think before you have that foundation, which you're just in survival mode, like you're not even really positioned to thrive.
That is true. That is true. Some people are just in that, you get up and you start to react to your environment.
Yes, right, exactly.
And it makes them very difficult, makes it very difficult for them to plan and feel like they're in the driver's seat. And like
Right,
I said, if
right,
you're not the boss of your business, you're the boss of your life, right?
exactly.
That's yeah. So and so prioritizing health. I heard you kind of mention,
Yes.
hydration, making sure that you're kind of getting the sleep, and make sure that you're journaling, make sure that you're exercising. All those things actually help your body to mind start to think that maybe you are a
Yes.
priority.
Well, I think when we do those things, it's going to sound a little bit weird, but I think of it as really it's your subconscious and your conscious mind. And so when you're doing those things, your subconscious mind wants to protect you, wants to keep you safe, and but it doesn't take any chances and it doesn't do anything that's off script. And so when your conscious mind is making those decisions to adopt those healthy lifestyle habits, to build a foundation of wellness, mind, body, and spirit, then I think it shows the subconscious, okay, I can trust myself with a little bit more. I can do something else. I can stretch myself a little bit.
Yeah, yeah. Okay. Okay. So that so it sounds like we kind of saying that, the foundation of the well-being would kind of be the first step
Yes.
you would have to. And so as we kind of go from that idea into mindset shifts, right? What are your thoughts about, the mindset? Because I think you could do it the first day.
Yes.
What keeps you going, right? What keeps you kind of go every single day that
No,
you're in
no,
that?
you're right. The way that we think affects every single thing in our lives. It impacts how we feel. It impacts the things that we do. Impacts who we become. And so learning to control your thoughts, that might even be before the wellness. I don't think so though. I still think you can't even receive that message of learning to control your thoughts. But if there's a single best lesson that I've learned through my journey, it's that one, because if you think you can or you think you can't, you're right. So you have to first believe that these things are possible for you. You have to watch how you speak to yourself. You spend more time with yourself than you do anybody else. And if we're honest, we talk to ourselves worse than our worst enemy. We wouldn't talk to anybody the way that we talk to ourselves. We say horrible things, and you have to stop that. You want to say affirming things. And these are habits. It's like a muscle that you have to build. And so you write out affirmations. They may not be your current reality, but these are the things to which you aspire. And I think, writing down your affirmations, learning to do mirror work, talk to yourself positively in the mirror, interrupt your thought patterns. When a negative thought comes, interrupt it, challenge it, because we are trained to think that our thoughts are true. But like I told you earlier on, my thought that I couldn't do any other job or no other job would pay enough, it was a false thought. So we have to learn to challenge the things that we're thinking and to reframe those things. So when we think something negative, stop it right there. When you realize that you're thinking something negative, think about what you're thinking about. When you realize it, stop it. Nope, that's not true. Or ask yourself, is it true? So if it's true, is it helpful? Is it serving me in any way. And even if it's not, and even if it's true, if it's not helping you, push it away. You don't have to think about that. I have a 12-year-old daughter. I tell her, bad thoughts, turn the channel, like you change the channel on the TV. You can change what you're thinking about.
There is so much to unpack. But first thing that you said that I saw, it's kind of my almost my anthem now is if you think you can, or if you think you can't, you're right.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah,
Right. That controls everything, right? You say,
it
oh,
does.
yeah, I can't lose this 5 pounds, you're right.
Right.
Yeah, if you say I can't, you're right, right? Because
Yes.
that determines your mindset. Because if you say,
Right.
okay, yeah,
Right.
I am going to make that doctor's appointment this month, you're right. Oh, I'm too busy, I can't make that appointment, you're right. Right?
Yes.
Yeah, I am too busy to take care of myself, I'm too busy to exercise, you're right. Or you know what, I'm decided I'm going to start exercising this month, you're right.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
So, and there was just so much to unpack there. I think that the other thing that you kind of mentioned, is that you can change the channel. Like
Yes.
you have control of your mind, right? You
You
can say,
do.
you know what? Is that actually true? Like question, but we're going back to not making assumptions that what those words, that what came into your mind was true. We're questioning it. Is that actually
Right.
true? And if the answer is yes, but it's not serving, you know what? Change the channel.
Yes, yes, absolutely. We are a product of every experience we've ever had, of every decision we've ever made, and they haven't all been good. We not everybody has a good childhood. Maybe people have spoken all kinds of negative things over you and over your life, but that doesn't make it true. And I think that we allow those kinds of thoughts to hold us back from becoming. I believe that we were all created on purpose for a purpose. But if you can't connect with that purpose, your life is less enriched, but also the world is missing something.
So, who is well, I'm trying to ask you like two different questions at once. So let me go with can you share like advice that you have for women who feel that they just don't have enough time to even think about changing?
Yeah, I think honestly, the best thing is to take time. So when you think you don't have time, you need time. You need time for yourself to actually sit down and look at your schedule. And again, to gain that clarity on what you want. You want to figure out what your priorities are because we have this habit of just doing things over and over again because they're the things we've always done. But maybe there are things that you can delegate. Maybe there are things that you're doing that you don't have to do anymore. Maybe there's a committee you were serving on that is no longer part of your priorities, but because it had become your habit and part of your schedule, it just stays there. But I think we have to take time periodically to review where we are and to make shifts in things. And so that we can find time and again find time to pour into ourselves. Sometimes I think that fatigue and those kind of things, I think it's about our perception of things. There's nothing going on that's exciting us, that's filling us, that's inspiring us. And I think that life can get a little bit mundane and routine and boring for us. So even if you're not, you can get the same amount of sleep, but you can, there's something that you have to do that excites you, that sets you on fire, I think you just have more energy for that.
Oh, definitely. Oh, definitely. Like, I think if you have something, if you feel kind of fatigued, but you're thinking, oh, I have a vacation coming up,
Yes.
or it's your birthday, or you have, or your best friend is doing something now, or yeah, or your niece's birthday, whatever. And,
Yes.
you suddenly feel energized and, oh, yes, I can do this, right?
Yes.
So that is really helpful. I would love if you could share a powerful success story of a patient, client, whose life was transformed after embracing these principles we discussed.
Yeah, so I'm thinking about a client who came to my last retreat this past fall, and it was night and day, the way she came versus the way she went home. So she shared with me at the end of the retreat that earlier in the year she'd had some struggles in her personal life, and she'd actually, I don't know that she had a plan or anything like that, but she no longer wanted to be alive.
Oh, really?
And she said after attending the retreat, she just had a different sense of her worth and her value, but also her power, that she left knowing that she could build a life that she loved. And she left knowing that, the things that had happened in the past did not define her and did not have to keep her down. She said it's like she came dark and she left in the light.
Wow. So the things that happened in the past did not have to keep her down. She left in the dark. She came in the dark and left in the light.
Right, right. And she, and so with my retreats, the women leave with a blueprint, a plan for where they want their life to go. And so, so she had that plan. She felt empowered that she could make those changes.
Wow. Question. So who is the ideal client that comes to your retreat, for instance?
I think what usually women who are more mid-career or although I've had a range of people. Probably the youngest is about 27, the oldest up to like in their 70s. So it's been a wide range. But as far as the people that I target are generally maybe 40 to 60 age range. The folks who are in the sandwich generation, that they're raising kids, they also have aging parents.
Oh,
They're
yes.
looking at job transitions, they're going through menopause, like they're
Yes.
having all kinds of life transitions, maybe they're retiring, all sorts of things are going on, and they don't know, they're feeling a little bit lost and they need some direction.
Yeah.
So, certainly those folks and they may need rest. We talked about the sandwich generation. When you're caring for elderly parents, that's
Mm.
exhausting.
Yes.
Absolutely exhausting.
Aging and ailing parents.
Yes.
It is, and at the same time, there may also be children on the other end
Right.
of
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, my family, we did that. My husband's mom has dementia, and
mm,
she lived with us for 3.5 years.
wow.
So, we have the child and we have the elder.
Older, yeah, yeah. Question, final question for you, would be if you had one superpower, what would it be?
Oh, wow. Let's see. This is not going to sound like I'm honoring myself, but it is the truth. If I had a superpower, it would be to be in multiple places at the same time
Mm,
because there's so many things that I want to do with
mm,
my life, so many ways that I want to serve, but I do find I don't have the capacity. So if I
mm.
could split myself and go into all these different things and do all these things all at the same time, that's what I do.
Well, if you had that superpower, it would definitely change lives for a lot of women. So
Yes.
it would be amazing. Well, we need more of you, Dr. Gaskin-Tillett. But at the same time, we need wellness and still making sure
Yes.
that you are cared for, so that you can continue to just pour into the world after your cup is filled. Well, I really so appreciate you making the time to come on to the show, Dr. Gaskins-Tillett. So most importantly, how can people find you?
Yeah, so I actually have a business. My business is called Boss Lady Dream Builders. So
Boss
we have,
Lady, excuse me,
yes,
Boss Lady Dream Builders. I love it.
yes, 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 yes. Because the boss lady is the empowering part, but you're
Yes.
building your dream life. And so I that's my handle on all social media platforms. I actually have a free Facebook group as well by that same name. So, if you are looking for a place where you can get some inspiration, and have a supportive community, the Boss Lady Dream Builders Facebook group is also available. My website is bossladydreambuilders.com. That's where you can get information about the retreats. You can also get information about the mentoring programs that I have.
Okay. I totally love it. So we are going to have all those links kind of at the bottom of this video on YouTube. So if anyone feels that this is helpful, please like it, share it to the people that you love. It's so important, especially that our women, mothers, and sisters, cousins that are dealing with all the stress and different ways, juggling everything, to understand the importance of just taking the time to ask themselves the serious questions and questions those assumptions that they've made, right? Because without that, that, it's like that oxygen. You have to kind of make sure that your tank
You
is full
do.
so you can pour into the world. Thank you so much for taking time this morning, Dr. Gaskins-Tillett. I'm so looking forward to having people kind of embrace what you've taught us today and also to follow you, meet you at your retreat. And I wonder if you may even start thinking about kind of a mother-daughter retreat, because I think that
Maybe.
there's so much opportunity for that, especially as we women try to navigate this year's coming.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Thank you for having me. It's been my pleasure. The mother-daughter retreat is actually a great idea. I've been trying to think about ways to serve younger women because, these lessons that I learned, I didn't learn until I was in my 40s. And I've often thought, what would my life be if I'd learned, in my teens or my 20s that I had this much power?
Yeah, yeah. And yeah, I totally agree. Like I wish I even knew that, if I think it's true or if I think it's not, I'm right, right? I wish I knew
Exactly, exactly. And
that.
it's so liberating. I mean, it's so
It is.
liberating and so
It
empowering.
is.
But
It
we
is.
just don't learn. Nobody taught us.
Nobody taught us, and this is the opportunity for the next generation to kind of get that information early before they're in their 50s like me, when I'm like, yeah, I believe that now.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay, thank you everybody for listening.